Now, alright, so we do the audio sync, even though there's no need for audio sync.
Yeah.
On the thing. 1, 2, 3. Hello, welcome back with Bourne Bred with another video after a long time. I'm Noah.
I'm Jessie.
And today we'll be talking about something that it's kind of been on our, I feel like a lot of creatives go through this, but not many people speak about it because it's kind of seen as bad character, but we all go through it, and that's jealousy in the creative scene. And I know that for a lot of us, sometimes it kind of feels like we're watching while someone who's in the same position as us is elevating, and you kind of get that, you know,
that resentment.
Yeah. And we kind of want to just kind of talk about that and what it is to navigate that and really kind of what it feels like.
So what brought this topic on for you guys?
I think jealousy, like being in like a creative circle, you know, being surrounded by musicians and visual artists and all types of creative people, particularly at the beginning of their kind of creative career, jealousy is something that like I personally like contend with a lot. There's been like a lot more emphasis on like social media and like watching people, and I don't know, I've really been thinking about what I'm doing, where I'm at. Maybe I've had too much time to reflect, but jealousy has been something that has kind of been just a kind of recurring theme in my life, and for as long as I've been making creative stuff and sharing it, but like especially recently. So I kind of wanted to unpack that on camera because I feel like it's relevant to a lot of people, and also I'd rather make something productive out of that feeling than just let it consume me.
Yeah, I'm kind of similar as well. I think for me, it's something that I haven't struggled with as much in the last few months, but it's something that it kind of always comes back from time to time, and yeah, it's I think it's just kind of one of those really important things to actually bring to light, just because I think we all go through that insecurity where we're watching someone do something and they're at the same level as you, and then you see that happen, and then you kind of feel that, oh, why them and not me? Both with myself and with you. Initially seeing that and then noticing that the first thought rather than celebration was, oh, you know, why not me? But then actually kind of wanting to correct that, because jealousy, we all know it doesn't fly. We all know it's a bad thing, but it's a thing that a lot of us have gone through, will go through, or are going through at the moment. And it's important to kind of bring that to light and discuss how to quell those thoughts, but also kind of how they manifest and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So when you say you've experienced jealousy recently, what kind of experiences are you referring to? What does that look like?
It's just it's such a like common thing for me, if I'm being honest. Social media isn't the root of the jealousy, but it's definitely a like platform for it to thrive. I think it's just things like seeing people get opportunities, and there's a lot to do with like within this creative scene particularly, but within a lot of scenes now, but especially creatively, like there is an extent to which like online presence, online engagement, all of that stuff, even though I try not to make it the source of like why I make stuff, there is a kind of degree to that stuff being currency. And it's almost like the more visibility you seem to have and the more engagement you have and the more everything, just attention and things, that tends to translate directly into attention from, say, like companies and wanting to use you as like sponsors, or just like back you or give you a bigger platform to like show your stuff. And even though that's really good, and in a way it makes those opportunities accessible to people in a way they weren't before, it also fosters a lot of jealousy, because it feels like I'm often asking myself the question of like sometimes seeing my friends just get these opportunities, or be like flown to places, or get sent stuff, or just acknowledged. I think it comes down to that acknowledgement rather than just clout for clout's sake. I think every creative or every kind of artistic person that shares their stuff has some part of them that wants to be acknowledged, and it feels kind of like, oh, like, aren't I good? It automatically prompts that comparison.
That kind of goes into what I was saying. Sorry to cut you off, but it was like I guess in a sense, it's kind of like, well, jealousy, it's more linked to our own sense of worth.
Exactly.
Than actual thing within actual animosity necessarily.
Exactly. It's not so much about the kind of direct benefits of the thing or necessarily about even the person. When you kind of strip those feelings back, it kind of, the recurring sense is just a questioning of like, aren't I also good enough? Why are they receiving this and not me? It almost feels like you kind of frame it as though their success is somehow at your expense. And that's not accurate, but I think that's something that it's really hard sometimes to take that thought captive, and it's hard to deal with, and it fosters a kind of resentment. Social media is just the epitome of like the best of what people are doing. And
at least from what you're seeing.
Sometimes, especially when I'm in a place of like dormant, I feel very dormant and or stagnant. Seeing other people's success is something that like, it's a challenge, to be honest.
Especially with isolation as well. Yeah.
What does that look like for you?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's kind of similar to what you were saying in the end, where I feel it most intensely when the quiet back of my mind feels like I'm not doing enough. The times where I felt the most jealous is when I feel like I should be putting out more Bourne Bred content, for example, and then I'm seeing someone else put out a video or put out some sort of platform, and I feel like, oh, what, they're getting all this attention, and there's that part of me that certainly craves attention. That's undeniable. We all have that, but I think I have it at a stronger level. And so I've got a combination of those things, that kind of guilt that I'm not doing enough and that kind of want for attention. Well, I guess what I'm trying to get is that I get that feeling, but then it's sharply corrected by the fact where it's like, well, what have I done?
Even within this dynamic of me and you and Bourne Bred, obviously I really enjoy the fact that like people tend to view us as like a pair, or like when they relate to us in relation to Bourne Bred, they know us as the two of us. But I think for me, I've been catching myself definitely recently kind of having moments of like just I guess jealousy, or if I'm being frank about it. I ask if people acknowledge, say, the things you're doing, or the things you put out there more than they acknowledge the stuff I do. I guess that, I mean, you can argue that like elements of that could just be siblings and a bit of that. But we have quite a unique dynamic. All three of us have a unique dynamic in that we're very close. And so sometimes it feels as though you're one of the peers I'm talking about when I say that I compare myself to my peers. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't sometimes make me do the same process I have with my like friends and stuff.
Feel that it's necessary to try and challenge these feelings?
I think, well, for me, I think, well, we all know jealousy is bad. Like we all know it's not like a thing, like a desirable trait. But I think in terms of breaking it down, the reason why is because when you let it take hold, it really leaks into everything you do regarding the person you're jealous of, and just kind of generally how you move. I think the biggest thing is that, because the thing is with jealousy, kind of as in how it manifests itself in actions, that what it makes you do is that on a, not even subconscious, but on a semi-conscious level, it makes it so that you're doing things to slights, especially if you're friends with the person. Everything you're doing is done to kind of slight that person, or to kind of hold them back in a mistaken attempt to bring yourself forward. You know, where other people are praising, you're saying like, oh yeah, but, you know, and it's those kind of subtle things. And what that does for yourself, it really doesn't serve you at all. It's the worst thing you can do for yourself. Like, forget the person, for example, and look at what it does for yourself is that it makes it so now you're more focused on holding people back than actually pushing yourself forward. Because jealousy at its best can drive you to push forward more. And that's what I find it's been doing for me recently. Like, I've got a lot of friends around me who are doing excellent things. And in times where I'm inactive, I'll be like, oh, wow, like, why not me? But now it pushes me to be more like, okay, well, I need to go further. If they're doing this at their age, I need to do more. And the downside of that, and when jealousy is bad, is that it just makes you want to pull them back. And so not only are you kind of, you know, whether directly or indirectly hindering their success, which is meaning there's less success happening for our demographic, but then you're making it so that your identity and your actions are based on you simply being the same or better than others, rather than you actually shining in itself.
In and of yourself.
So you're not actually pushing yourself as far as you can go.
Right.
You're putting your energy into holding others back, which is now restricting you. And that's worse because now you're doing less.
That's a really good point. I guess it's a really fine line between being inspired by somebody and being envious of someone.
Yeah.
And I think like why we thought this is a good discussion is because the thought process that makes you challenge the jealousy when it comes. That it's like in that instant almost whether it's that instant where you kind of discern for yourself whether this is going to be you're going to take this on as inspiration or you're going to take this on as like crippling jealousy. Because like you say, it's very paralyzing to be jealous of people because you're kind of framing everything you do in relation to them.
Yeah.
And you're actually like centering them too. Because it's like, and so if it's your impulse to create because you want to create in and of itself, like I love to draw, that's why I draw. I love to write, that's why I write. Suddenly when that element's there, it's about, oh yeah, but I like to draw in relation to that person and ultimately, that does hinder you.
I think you kind of said it in a sentence actually that kind of made me think is that you said you said inspiration and envy. It's kind of made me realize that just in you saying that inspiration and envy, they're like cousins or they're like siblings.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like two sides of the same coin, and you can either
they're not opposites.
Yeah. You can either see someone and be inspired by it, or see someone and envy it.
So coming off that, how can you turn envy into inspiration?
But honestly, that thought process for me happens so quickly. And it's kind of like, it's something that you just train yourself to do. I think it's like having the envious feelings or the jealous feelings. I don't think that's necessarily the aspect of it that should be condemned. Because I think it's natural to get jealous.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of those like Instagram quotes that are like, you know those Instagram quotes that are like just like overly harsh? Like, like if your friends are jealous, if you're jealous, they're toxic and all this kind of stuff. Being jealous isn't toxic.
It's human.
It's human. So but I think where you can kind of turn it from envy into inspiration is literally as it happens. Like I say, taking your thoughts captive. And I think that comes off being a bit self-aware. You have to be a bit self-aware to be able to do it and acknowledge that you feel that way. But then literally when you see something, like for instance, the other day, I saw my friend post about a really good opportunity that they got. And I found myself, like before I was even conscious of it, my natural innate reaction was like, before congratulations, it was just jealousy. I felt almost resentful. And before that emotion had a chance to kind of fully manifest as an action, and before it had a chance to kind of actually sort of pick its target, I noticed it. I think, and that's like an important thing. I noticed that I was feeling that way, and I actively kind of like took a deep breath or whatever, and then I was kind of like, but let my rational mind kick in and kind of be like, this is a really excellent opportunity. Them getting this opportunity has doesn't need to have any bearing on whether or not I'm worthy of it. It has nothing to do with that. And I just was like, cool.
It's not about you. It's about them.
It's about them. And I was like, that's actually. And then I could then process the success for what it was, which is a really cool thing. And you want to see your friend having those opportunities. But it's about that, having that self-awareness and that as it happens, and don't just allow the thoughts to kind of flippantly cross your mind. Actually take them captive.
And I think humility and a lack of self-entitlement. Look at it in the context of them. It's them. And when you look at the context of it, wow, they've been working, they got this opportunity. That's amazing. If it's you, then it's like, I didn't get the opportunity. Well, that's ultimately stupid. Like, again, the feeling of jealousy and envy is human. But the stupidity comes around when it then is like, oh, well, I don't have that. Well, what have you done? What are you doing? What do you have to do with them? And when you kind of humble yourself and you're not entitled, it's actually freeing. You then have the freedom to be like, wow, it's really cool for them. And then within that peace you're now getting and that happiness you're getting for them, you can be like, I wonder what I can do for myself. And that's where kind of inspiration comes in. Part of that inspiration is what even pushed us to shoot this video now.
Yeah, so exactly. It's kind of like, at its best, you can really translate jealousy and envy and into momentum and into drive. Yeah, one of the things I wanted to go into actually regarding how jealousy manifests itself is, we kind of touched on it earlier, is entitlement. Because what it does is that it reinforces this idea, this quite arrogant idea that you deserve
an opportunity
just on the merit of them having
just on the merit of that someone else has it, which is ultimately just that self-serving thing of you deserve it because I do, but you don't, and no one does. It has nothing to do with what I'm doing and what I'm doing. An opportunity they've earned is for them. It's not for me. An opportunity for me will come and it will be for me, but a person that they work with, or getting to shoot a video for this person, or getting a grant from this, that's something that is for them and they worked for. And how dare I be entitled enough to feel like I deserve it just because?
At its base, it seems like, jealousy, like just a passive thing. But the reason that I find it to be quite insidious and quite damaging in terms of your creative momentum and pathways is for reasons you say, because entitlement implies a certain kind of selfishness. Not saying that you are an inherently selfish person if you feel jealous, but it's just it's not the feelings, it's the actions, it's the weight that you assign to those feelings and the actions you take based on those feelings that dictate the kind of person you are. So like, if you act on that jealousy with like, okay, well, I'm gonna stop working and sort of just demand that I get opportunities. That's actually selfish.
Or not work as hard.
Or not work as hard, and then feel like almost have a bit of a suck because you're not getting the same opportunities. It's like, oh wow, so okay, you've taken that person's hard work or whatever it is, or taken whatever it is in their journey that led them to that point, and you've centered yourself. Like you've actually made it about you. To be honest, those things aren't inherently connected. You know, did they get the opportunity at your expense? No, they just got an opportunity, and it's up to you it's up to you what that means for you. Jealousy, it's like a double-edged sword. I don't know if that's the right metaphor for it, but it's like a double-edged blade in terms of it damages you and it damages the recipient, or it damages your perception of the recipient. But it makes you a sort of bitter person. It makes you resentful. And it actually takes away from your craft, because you're investing all that energy into expecting certain opportunities when you could be just putting out your portfolio, putting out your body of work. And it also, if you let the jealousy go to its worst extreme, it can actually manifest in forms of sabotage.
Both self and out.
That's a really important distinction to make. Self-sabotage, because you're feeding yourself this narrative, I'm not good enough. Right? It's all fed by insecurity. I'm not good enough. It doesn't matter how hard I work, I'm just not gonna get the work because they're getting all of it. And that's self-sabotage, because then now you tend to reinforce whatever narrative you believe in your own head. And so you start to sabotage yourself, and then that can even manifest as sabotaging another person, the person. You know what I mean? By finding yourself saying disparaging comments about their accomplishment, casual things, and it begins as those casual comments. Have you ever found yourself thinking something like, when you see someone have something successful, you're like, you kind of find yourself being more critical of it, like, that's not that good, or just like, clout chaser. And I find sometimes myself like, whoa, like, why are you being so critical? It's ultimately because I resent them and the opportunity. And
I was going to add as well, and one of the biggest things it does that when you're doing that you can't see is that, like, people can feel that. People can feel that.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
Like, it was quite like a typical phrase, but people kind of they feel the vibes you're giving off, they feel the energy you're giving off, and it comes off so clearly because it comes to a point where now you're kind of doing these things without even thinking. You don't know you're doing it.
It's
but
so
people are noticing that, and then subconsciously then it's like, oh, this person's kind of always bringing it.
Their energy's weird.
They're I don't really hear them doing things, and then basically you're kind of giving off this kind of really needy vibe. You become needy. You become like, you just can't let things rest, and people sense that, and because people are going to resonate with the people that are genuinely bigging them up. Recently, I caught up with my friend Rachel recently from New Wave, who I've known for a while. And it's just like, people, when they genuinely want to see you win, like, you can feel it.
It's because you register it on both levels. Of like, there's you consciously register like what people are saying to you with their words, but you also receive a kind of, again, it sounds so like new agey millennial shit, but like, you receive a kind of energy.
Or even simply holding back a nice comment you would have said.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you see someone new,
not reinforcing.
Yeah, exactly. And you would have said, hey, nice outfit or something. It's like, oh, hey, that dead air, that dead space, that's not just a neutral thing. That is felt. That space there is felt. And the fact that you didn't fill it with something positive makes a difference. Like, we've seen some people who do that. Like, I mean, there have been times where we've done that ourselves, and we're always trying to correct ourselves on that. For sure. You know, it's easy to be very critical. You know,
and it's easy to mask it as critical thinking.
Exactly.
It's easy, like, especially that's what we found within the two of us, particularly, is like, it's easy to chalk it up to analytical, but it's like,
we really just kind of hate it.
Straight up, because it's like, analytical to what end?
Yeah.
Like, analysis and critical thinking is only useful if it's kind of to the end of being constructive.
Exactly.
But it's like, if we're just analyzing it it's like, I don't know, dissecting something is a form of bringing it down.
Exactly. So, and we're not talking to these people, so our analysis, we don't have relational currency with some of the people we'll be analyzing. So we're just analyzing them for no reason, you know? And yes, it's good to like take in the world and break it down and understand it, but you know, it's not helpful. We're just saying like, oh, this, and that, and we're trying to correct ourselves on that. But the one point I wanted to quickly say before we wrap up on this one is that we've seen people who are very entitled and who are very jealous. And
well, there's people within the creative scene who I always just think the bottom line of the creative scene, or whether it's visual art, whether it's music, whether it's writing, whether it's photography, the baseline and the creators I'm most inspired by are the people who, when all the validation is stripped away, when all of the platforms and everything, they're actually motivated and driven by their love of doing the thing they want to do.
Yeah.
And so,
passion,
exactly, for the thing. And I think like where it becomes cloudy is when you get like a group of creative, because we've talked about how that's a vague word, but when you get people that are in it for, or the validation eclipses the need or the impulse to create the actual thing, which can happen, and it happens a lot when jealousy is involved. Validation and status eclipses your actual output, your actual creative momentum. And when that happens, that's where you get those people that you're referring to, of like, kind of like, are you existing within this as somebody who's just hoping to receive the same validation as people that have worked really hard? Because really, at the end of the day, that validation for a lot of these people is incidental. People are drawn to people's genuine passion and genuine talent. It gets murky when you get those people that are more so in it for the validation. It shows what their true value is, what their true currency is in this whole thing.
That's where the clout chaser comes in.
And that's where that term comes in.
Yeah.
So, I noticed you guys said before about how people can really work hard for their opportunities, but I thought you guys should touch on the fact that sometimes people can seem to get opportunities out of serendipity or luck or something, and how you guys should not take that on as a reflection of yourself.
That's a really good point, actually, because I know, like, Charis, we've spoken about this off camera before. Passion and hard work makes you more receptive to opportunities. It makes you see opportunities or seek out opportunities or even create opportunities where they wouldn't exist. But that's fed by genuine passion. And you're right. I'm glad you pointed that out, because that's a good distinction to make. Because sometimes people work really hard and it seems like you're still not getting the same opportunities as your peers. And
that's where the feeling is a bit more not that
valid.
Right,
That's when it feels, because I think there is a level to which sometimes life isn't fair. Sometimes just pure like serendipity, like you say, means that someone will seem to get this thing. But I think at that point, I think what comforts me, everybody's path does look different. I think if you don't have to compare yourself to somebody else's trajectory exactly as their trajectory looks like, in terms of, oh, okay, at 21 you should have done this. Literally, there's so many musicians I listen to that I'm like, this person's like 18 and they're already like, just like, what am I doing? But I think it's like, equally, there's people that their career started
in their 40s.
It's like, and it's like, it's not mutually exclusive, it's not comparable. Apples and oranges, I guess. And I suppose the only thing you can control, you can't really control whether other people's opportunities, you can't control serendipity, you can't control good favor, whatever you believe in, right? But you can control your response. You can control your output.
And those have more control over the things that will come in the future.
Literally, more than you might realize. Because like if instead of feeling that way and then just not doing anything, just sitting in my room, which I often do, having a sulk, I found literally when I draw something, when I make something despite that, not only do I feel better, it also is like, oh, I've made something. I've made something that I can put out there, and who knows what kind of impact that has. Whether it manifests as an immediate opportunity or whether it manifests as just somebody really responding to it. I have control and I created this thing. And the more you do that, the less jealousy can have a hold on you. We're all gonna get that feeling, but when you actually go to what you love and actually do that, then it will teach you how to spot more opportunities, and it will free you of the jealousy. So when you see something, your response will sooner be, let's celebrate, rather than I feel this way. And that's very freeing. It's freeing, and it's nice to be able to celebrate, because it gives you more things to celebrate about life. Asia recently launched our magazine, which shout out to that, which is massive, and me seeing the work behind that, and that's a reason to celebrate. I'm glad that I get to see that, and I can be like, yes, that's a win. Because now, on a selfish level, that's something in my life that's actually making my life better, making me happier, versus another thing to make my life sad, on a selfish level. And then on a wider community level, that's something we need here in Melbourne.
We need that in Melbourne. We need that in Melbourne, and we need people supporting it, and that all helps to build the community up as a whole. And it makes, on a humanity level, it makes me a better person, and it's also kind of helping to push the excellence in Asia, because we're supporting her passion and what she's good at, which is also, serving us. So, but not staying in that makes you, it makes you a darker person, makes the world a darker place.
You antagonize and you resent the people that you're jealous of. There's only so long a friendship or any kind of relationship, professional relationship, friendship, whatever, it literally can't be sustained if one party is jealous. It can't be. Like, you can hide it, it can come out in passive forms, but it can't be sustained. So, I mean, ultimately, to bring it back full circle, it's like, like that point that Charis raised is crucial to all of this. And I'd say that that's definitely a statement I would kind of like put brackets around everything we've discussed, is that despite all of that, you can't afford to compare yourself or let that comparison actually cause you to stop. Because ultimately they're not comparable. Try if you can, and it's easier said than done, constantly struggle with it, but try and actively take those thoughts captive and translate those feelings of jealousy into inspiration and an incentive to make stuff for yourself.
In terms of action steps, literally look at someone who you find yourself being envious of, and literally write that person down, write why you feel that way and what it is, and then just like nail that down and just get it out, get it out of your head onto something, and so you can actually pinpoint and look at why you're feeling that way. But I just wanted to quickly just briefly speak on the fact that it's so important to have that whole thing of different journeys in your head, I feel, because it's something that's kind of fed to us from when we're young, because we all go to primary school and then high school, and then most of us are told to go to uni, and then a job shortly after and a house shortly after that. But obviously the world's not working that way. We can't afford houses. Our generation can't really afford houses. We're not all going to uni.
This year literally exemplifies how it threw us all a curveball in terms of plan.
Exactly. And so to our journeys are super, they're wired. We're wired differently completely. You and I are wired completely differently. That person's wired differently, and then the world is treating us differently as well. It's just all so different. It's also eclectic and different. And so to see someone and be like, oh, I'm not doing what they're doing because we're the same, and we're the similar age, it's silly. And if you compare yourself to people, then not only will you go crazy and feel inferior all the time, but you'll also put yourself above others. You'll put yourself you'll put yourself above those who aren't as far as you are, and that will make you an arrogant person.
Because you're measuring it by these like very specific metrics, which are just like not inherently valuable themselves.
Exactly. With Corona and everything like that, everybody had to stop for that, which kind of tells you, which is a hint as to like why it's so it's fruitless doing that. It's much more freeing to not compare your journey, just appreciate someone else's and focus on yours. So in proper conclusion, things on, okay. In proper conclusion, thanks for watching. we've been Born and Bred. Before we go, we just want to shout out a few people, particularly Asia for IO Magazine, which she recently launched. Yeah, she's seriously next up. We'll have all the links in the video in the description, but she's amazing. Make sure you follow her. And New Wave, they're just always doing good things. It's a music and just media collective, and they're just always doing amazing stuff. Soli, I was recently in a little project she's working on. Make sure you follow her on Instagram and watch for that. And was there anyone you wanted to mention at all?
No.
There's two choices, jump that bitch or win with ease. We chose the latter like a 5-white breeze. Gone.
We're young and smart, so we need pay. We finna rock like homeboy K. Ojo, the G face. T tricks the crowd on purpose, the side G flips. And now move you on to scene 6, bitch.